on today's video, we are back at the range, and today we are out here to test out the Rost Martin RM1C with the XS Sights R3D 2.0s. Now this gun is clear, no mag, nothing in the chamber. Now if you have not watched the video I did before this, I will link it in the description below, but we basically went over the installation of these sights, and these sights are actually made for the Springfield XDs and Hellcats, because XS Sights doesn't actually make a set of sights for the Rost Martin yet. Now, speaking of the installation, the front sight went on nice and tight. We used the sight pusher, the Real Avid sight tool, to put that on. But the rear sight, I was actually able to push this sight on with my thumb, and we are pretty much relying on the set screw in the middle of the sight with the Vibratite and torquing it down. So I want to shoot quite a few rounds through this today and make sure that this rear sight stays put. And the last thing I want to talk about before we start shooting, and we did go over this in that video also, is if you look, the rear sight still isn't quite tall enough because of the plate system that Rost Martin uses to mount the RMR cut dots. Our dot is sitting a little high. Now, before you say, well, why don't you use a dot with a shorter base? Well, we tried 3 different optics. We've got the Gideon Optics Rock on here, and I'll explain to you why here in a second, why it's on here. We tried the Gideon Optics Alpha, and we even tried the Holosun 507C, and this plate system is pretty much going to cause an issue with any dot that you use. And that's why we lead into why we're using the Gideon Optics Rock. It actually has a built-in iron sight in the back of the optic, and I am able to use the rear sight on the dot with the new front XS sight. So what we're going to do in the video today, we're going to shoot quite a few rounds. We're going to be leaving the dot off and using the backup sight on the optic with the new XS front sight. We're not going to shoot for groups today. We've got some USPSA targets set up downrange, and we also got a couple steel plates. I basically just want to see if I can keep all my shots in the A zone with the green dot shut off on the rock. I just want to make sure that if my dot fails, that I can use the backup sight on the dot with the front sight, because we've got over 700 rounds through this gun now, and we still have not had any malfunctions. So this is going to end up being my new carry gun. All right, I want to apologize for the wind noise today. It is super windy here. Hopefully the dead cats are doing their job, but we're probably going to get a little bit of wind noise. Now we're set up at 10 yards. You guys are just going to have to take my word for it that I've got my dot shut off. I do have a camera down there rolling. The target is moving because of all the wind, but let's just see how this goes. Now we're only going to be using the flush fit mag today because this is how I'm going to be carrying it when it's in the holster. So we got 10 rounds loaded up. Let's see if we can keep all our shots in the A zone. All right, not too bad of a group. Looks like we've got all alphas. All right, I got 10 more rounds loaded up. I did forget to mention, we're only using my Steel Valley casting reloads today because we've already tested a lot of different ammos in this gun, and it runs anything you put in it, whether it be cheap plinking rounds, defense rounds. We've got a whole playlist of videos with this gun. All right, let's see if we can shoot just a little bit better group this time. Tighten it up a little bit. All right, not too bad of a group. I noticed I'm shooting just a little bit high. I am aiming for the dead center of that A zone, but using that rear sight on that Gideon Optics Rock with that front sight, I can't complain. All right, we're all pasted up. Let's shoot one more group and then we'll move on to shooting some steel. All right, so that's actually a really nice group, and that makes me happy because I actually shot this Rost Martin really good with iron sights, and I'm a dot shooter, so I'm glad that the backup iron on the rock is working really well with that XS front sight. All right, we got 15 rounds in our flush fit mag. Got the steel painted. We're gonna fire 2 shots, transition back and forth, left to right. Let's see how this goes. All right, our steel on the right. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hits. And our steel on the left, we've got all 7 of our hits. So we hit with all 15 rounds. I'll take it. All right, this gun is clear, no mag, nothing in the chamber. My final thoughts on the Rost Martin RM1C with the XS Sights R3D 2.0s. I'm a dot shooter, and I was actually able to use these iron sights pretty good today. So I'm glad to know that if the dot fails, I've got something that I'm somewhat efficient with that I can use for a backup, because we're almost to 1,000 rounds. We're getting ready to do the 1,000 round review, and this will end up becoming my new carry gun. Now, I want to talk about the rear sight a little bit because I was a little nervous that that might come loose, but the Vibratight and the set screw did its job. We shot about 100, 110 rounds through it today, and this is rock solid, and the optics rock solid, and so is the front sight. And it looks like I did a halfway decent job centering everything up because it was pretty accurate. Now, one thing we need to keep in mind, like I said in the first video and I said at the beginning of this one, this rear sight does not work with this front sight. I was using that backup iron sight on the Gideon Optics Rock the whole video with the front sight. Now, if you can find a dot with a lot shorter base, you'll probably be all right. But if you're going to put these sights on with a dot, I would recommend that you get a dot that has a backup iron sight, and you should be good to go. All right, so at the end of the day, do I recommend that you put these Springfield XD sights on your Rost Martin RM1C? I personally think you should, as long as you got an optic with a backup iron sight, or you find a dot that has a lot shorter base and you can use it. I would definitely recommend it. Now, I really want to thank XS Sights for sending these out to the channel, because we honestly didn't know if it was going to work or not, but it did. I love their sights. This is the second set we've reviewed. We also did a review on their sights for my Walther PDP Pro. But man, these sights are so easy to pick up, and I'm very impressed with them, and I can't recommend XS Sights enough. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.